So we're looking at number 16, and we're looking at expansionary fiscal policy, which is either taxing less or spending more by the government. And contractionary monetary policy is going to be something that shrinks the money supply, and that's typically selling bonds, I should say, selling bonds, because when you sell bonds, the banks get bonds for money, so they actually spend money. The Fed gets the money from the bank for the bonds, so that brings money, that pulls money out of the money supply. And what we're looking at is what effect would that have on the interest rate and capital investment. Well, what's going to happen with expansionary fiscal policy, let me jump over here to number 16, is that you're going to get the aggregate demand curve shifting to the right. But you're also going to get what's called crowding out, because if the government is spending more, then they're going to raise money demand, which is going to push the interest rate up, right? Also, when the Federal Reserve uses contractionary monetary policy, that's going to be shifting the money supply curve and the money market graph to the left, which means that interest rates are going to go up. And because interest rates are going up, and because the government is probably borrowing more money because they're spending more, that's going to crowd out private investment. So it's going to go down, which means that capital investment is going to decrease. Private investment, I should say private. See, that's why I was confused. This should be private investment. So let me just change that, because private investment is going to decrease. Public investment is going to increase. So that should be private. That makes a lot more sense. I think that's the reason why I was confused. I confused myself Tuesday because I put the wrong word in there, because there was a difference between private and just a capital investment. The capital investment could be a government, public or private. But when the government borrows more to spend more, they're going to crowd out private investment, drive the interest rate up, and the private investment is going to most likely drop. Okay, so that's number 16. Now, guys, let me know every now and then that you're here by coughing or something. But just and if you have any questions, just please shout out. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to start with number 20. And what I'm going to do from here on out is to make it a little bit, hopefully, easier. Actually, we're going to start with number 21. This one is probably one of the most weird. And I'm going to spend some time on this. It's a little bit tricky. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just refer to the study guides, this one right here that you guys have, which has all the graphs. So I'm going to show you guys how you can answer these questions by really knowing these graphs, and also the other study guide that I sent out to you guys, which has all the formulas. So if you're really fluent, if you really know these formulas and understand them, and you really know and understand the graphs, and by that I mean to really understand the graphs, understand what causes these variables to change, understand what would cause these curves to shift either right or left. If you really have a good understanding of all these graphs, then you should be able to pretty much answer anything that they're going to ask. So I'm going to be referring to these and sort of looking at these questions. Okay. Now, the one that we're going to look at now is, I said, so we want to I said, or I wrote, we want to understand the effect that a decrease or increase in the required reserve ratio will have on the total reserves in banks, the money multiplier, and the money supply. Okay. So let me get the right thing here in front of me. So I did a little workup right here. Let me get you guys over here. Let me go to number 21. So if you look at your formula sheet, you'll know. Let me just, it's just to show you. You'll know that the money multiplier is 1 over the required reserve ratio. Okay, so that's what the simple money multiplier is. Now, the required reserve ratio is a percentage, not like a dollar amount. Okay, it's a percentage of whatever their assets are, right? Their assets. So if we have a bank, and I'm going to scoot this up here for now. If we have a bank that has a required reserve of 10%, which means if they have demand deposits of 100,000 and no equity, then their required reserves needs to be 10% of this, right? Which is 10,000. So that's where they are, right? So when we go back and look at the question, we want to know what's going to happen if we change the required reserve ratio. What's going to happen to total reserves, the money multiplier, which is the actual dollar amount when you say 1 over whatever the percentage is, and the money supply. Okay, so that's what we're going to look at. And we jump back over here. So I just said, I just put a hypothetical in here. If we lowered the reserve requirement, if we changed it, if we lowered it, if we decreased it from 10% to 9%, then the money multiplier is going to be 1 over the reserve requirement, which is 1 over 0.09. That's 9%, right? Let me get actually, let me just, I should have one here. Let me grab this guy right here. Hold on. So I can have a little pointer here. So that means that we have, and so when we do the math, that means that we have a money multiplier of 11.111111 forever. Now, the money supply is what? The money supply is the money multiplier times. No, okay. Now we're going to say, let's see, how do I do this? Yeah, the money multiplier is this number right here times 1,000. And now I'm trying to remember why I said that. Let me think about this for a minute. Reserves, or did I make a? You jump back over here. Money multiplier. Where is it? Spinning multiplier. Give me 1 second here. Oh, that is it. Right. So it's 1 over the reserve. So we're going to increase the demand at the pot. Oh, I left something out here in my problem. there's a, I'm trying to remember. So sorry, guys, where I got this 1,000. I think that there's part of this. I think there's a deposit of 1,000 that I didn't even write in here that I should have. So, no, reserve. So there's a deposit of 1,000, which means that when we do the money multiplier, it's going to bring the money supply up to 11,111,111, right? Because we multiply whatever we deposited by the money multiplier right here. So what happens is that when we do that, right, and we increase our demand deposits over here, you know what? I'm going to come back to this. I should have written more in here because this changes too. This is going to go up by 10,000 because they're going to. Okay, no, I'm not. There's a deposit that I should have written in here of 1,000, right? So that means they're going to be able to loan out more right here, okay, because they've got more to loan out. So that's going to change to 86,000. The key here is that when we look at 9%, which is the new reserve requirement, and we multiply that by what our total liabilities are right here, we still end up with the same number because even though we lowered our reserve requirement, because we were able to increase our demand deposit over here. Oh, I got it. Sorry, guys. That 1,000, man, my brain's not working here. This 1,000 comes from the fact that we were able to lower 10,000 to 9,000. Oh yeah, there you go. I just lost that guy. Because we were able to go down from 10% to 9%. Yeah, there was no deposit. We were just, because of the reserve requirement went down, we were able to lower it here. Okay, so now we're here. Okay, so now we've got this extra $1,000 because this 9,000 is 9% of 100,000. So we're going to loan that out right here. Okay, when we loan that out, that's going to go out into the economy and get multiplied. So we do the math right here, and that's going to theoretically come back into our deposits right here, which means we've got a higher amount of liabilities, which means now that we still, so now since this is going up, we've got to still have 9%, right? So this has to go up again. So 9% of this larger number is 10,000. So the bottom line here is when you change, let me go back over here. When you change the required reserve ratio, the total reserves is not going to change because you're going to change the money multiplier and the money supply. The money supply goes up, and the money multiplier goes up, right? So the money supply went up from 100,000 to 111,111.111, right? And the multiplier went up to 11.111 when before it was 1 over 10%. If we just do it real quick, is 1 over 10, 1 divided by 0.1 is 10, right? So the multiplier went up from 10 to 11.1111, and the total money supply also went up right here. But the reserve requirement stayed the same. Okay, the actual amount, right? So, or not the reserve requirement, the total reserves, the dollar amount stayed the same, right? So, whoa, sorry, wrong. Let me get rid of that. So the total reserves doesn't change, but the money multiplier and the money supply does. And I could have just told you that, but in my own awkward way, I was trying to show you mathematically why that's true. Okay. Okay. Go away. Calculate the inflation rate when given the change in the consumer price index. Well, that's just simple. That's just the inflation rate is going to be the percentage change. Okay. So I've written it out here. I'll let you you can pause the video or you can read it. This is really, you've learned this, but the percentage change in the CPI is equal to the inflation rate. So I just did an example here. You would take the CPI from the ending year minus the CPI from the beginning year and divide by the beginning and get the percentage change. And also in your formulas, I'm almost positive that it's in here. In your formulas, right here, okay? Right there, all right? All right, so number 23, understand the effect that a fully anticipated expansion of the money supply will have on the economy in the long run. The key here is the long run, okay? So when there is a increase in the money supply, you're going to get an increase in the nominal GDP. I mean, there's going to be more money, but you're also going to get an increase in price levels. So what typically would happen then is you would get an expansion of the money supply, which would drive interest rates down and shift your aggregate demand. Hold on one second. I don't know why I can't keep my guy here, my little thingy. Give me 1 second. Where'd it go? Here we go. Copy. Okay. You're going to get a shift in demand because you're going to get more money in the money supply. So that's going to bring you, and let's put this guy, let's say he's here, okay? He's there. This is in the long run. Okay, this is a long run. So what happens is when we drive the prices up here, that's also going to drive the prices up of everything. In other words, all the factor inputs, all the production costs are going to go up. Wages, capital, anything that they're using in terms of like resources, whatever they're having to buy, whatever firms have to buy to make whatever or to produce whatever they're producing also goes up, and that's going to shift the aggregate, so short run aggregate supply back to the left. So you're going to end up going from here to here to here. So in the long run, you're going to have the same real output, but you're going to have a change in nominal GDP because nominal, as you know, is the dollar amount, and the same amount of output at a higher price level is going to be a higher dollar amount. So you would get an increase in nominal GDP, okay? And you would also get an increase, obviously, in the price level going from here to here to here. So when you've got expansionary monetary policy, according to the classical economist, the classical theory, you're going to get a shift in the aggregate demand to here, and then you're going to get a leftward shift in the short run aggregate supply to here. So in the long run, prices go up. Real output is still, doesn't change in the long run. It stays right at the potential. and you got a higher price level. Okay, and you've learned that. That's just a review. Okay, number 24. What time is it? I'm trying to. I should be able to go quicker here. Let's see. Number 24. You've got like 3 or 4 questions on what promotes long run economic growth. You should know that, so I'm not going to spend any time on that. Identify, number 25, identify specific transactions that would decrease or increase the current account surplus in a country's balance of payments account. Now remember, the current account is the trade balance. So it's the difference between exports and imports. So what kind of specific transaction would change that? Okay, so it's going to be some type of transaction that is either an import or an export. Okay, not buying government bonds. That's going to change the financial or the capital account. But what changes the current account is trade. Okay, trade from one country to the other, and as long as you keep that in mind, you'll be fine here. Okay. And if the country wants to, they want to decrease their current account, they're going to import more than they export. If they want to increase their current account, they're going to raise they're going to increase their exports or decrease their imports. Okay. This one, you've got plenty of quiz problems. We did a lot of assignments where you get free responses on comparative advantage. So it's pretty simple. This is actually not hard at all. This is not one of those hard ones. This is just understanding that whatever country has the comparative advantage in producing a good or a service over another country, the country with a comparative advantage is going to produce more of it and export some of it. The country that has the comparative disadvantage is going to import some of what they consume. Okay. Number 27, analyze an aggregate demand supply to identify demand pull inflation. Well, this is so simple, but I'm going to show you anyway because, I am. Demand pull. This is just a graph showing what economic growth looks like on the PPF, and I've showed you that before many times. This is what I just explained to you guys about. And I actually went into more depth than I had to for this question. It's important to know, and it's in your formulas, by the way, right down here at the bottom. Right, the very last thing in that is capital account plus financial account equals 0. So the financial account are the capital outflows and the capital inflows, and whatever, if we have a deficit in our, actually capital plus financial, this should be financial plus current account. This should be current account. Whoever did this made a mistake. This should be current account. Interesting. I've got it correct here. The current account and the capital account are financial flows, right? So if Japan is coming in and buying government bonds in America, they're using their what do they have? Yen. They have yen, or is that China? Japan has. Can't think what they have right now, but anyway, a Japanese currency to buy dollars. That's a capital inflow into the U.S., which is going to balance out whatever deficit we have in our current account or our trade balance, right? So the more we import, the more capital inflow. Capital inflows means imports, and capital outflow is exports, right? They go hand in hand. So whatever the balance is in the current account, So say we have a deficit where we import more than we export. Then we're going to have a capital account surplus where we have more capital coming in than we do going out. If we have more imports, then we have more capital inflow. So that's going to balance it out. So the current account and the capital account should be zero, okay? And that's about that, okay? A demand pull. Yeah, I was going to. Okay, that's easy enough. That's just demand pull, right? So when we have a shift in the demand curve, the aggregate demand to the right, we call that a pull, and that's going to make price levels go up. If we have a cost push, and this is cost, right? The short run aggregate supply, it represents the cost of production, the overall cost of production in the economy. So cost push inflation is going to be a shift like this, right? Which is going to also raise a price levels. So actually we'd be here and we go, yeah, it's going to raise price levels, but it also lowers output. So if you had to pick one, you'd really want demand pull more than you'd want cost push, because cost push is a double negative. You got higher prices and lower output. With demand pull, you've got higher prices, but you've got more output, right? You're going from Y1 to Y2, right? Okay. So when we're looking at, when you see a question that's asking about any variable, right? What are the economic factors that would decrease or increase the real interest rate? Okay. So let me find that one real quick. Actually, I skipped 28. Okay. Let me go over this one. Understand the effect that expansionary fiscal policy has on the economy. Well, we just talked about that. It's going to shift the aggregate demand to the right. I can show it to you again, because they're actually going to either spend more, the government's going to spend more, or the government would spend more, there'd be more investment, or taxes would go down, which would mean there would be more consumption. Either way, the aggregate demand is going to shift to the right, okay, which is going to raise nominal GDP, because eventually you're going to get back to where we were before, right here. So it's not necessarily in the long run going to change real output, but it will certainly change nominal, because you're going to get more. You're going to get more output, but you're going to get a higher price level. But even if the aggregate short run aggregate supply curve shifts back to the left, and you're at 0.3 right here, you're still going to get a higher nominal GDP because you got a higher price level. Okay. Because remember, the nominal GDP is output times price. So if the output stays the same, but price goes up, you're going to get an increase in nominal GDP. Okay. So understand the economic factors that increase or decrease the real interest rate. Well, what you should do with this is go to your graphs and look at which graphs have real interest rate on the as one of the variables, right? Not the money market. This is nominal. This is not take into account inflation. However, the loanable funds graph right here is going to, if any of these change, so you can read here and you can see what's going to change in either the supply of loanable funds or the demand of loanable funds that would change the real interest rate. And the other one is the investment demand. So if you have a shift out in the investment demand curve, real interest rates are going to go up if you have the movements along the line. So you can read about what shifts it and how it actually moves along the line right here. So this is the best way to be prepared to answer any question that you get concerning what would affect real interest rates, okay? This graph right here, the investment demand, and the loanable funds graph right here, and it explains, what the variables are and what will affect the variables right here, okay? And I'll let you study that. I won't take up any more time with that. It's pretty easy. Number 30 was, see, there's a lot of questions on what promotes long-run economic growth. So make sure you really understand why. And I think, I know that in one of your, maybe two of your study guides for your quizzes, I gave you a website, and you can easily Google it. It's in your book. There's videos on it. Just really understand factors that would promote economic growth. So understand. Okay, so how is the exchange rate defined in the foreign exchange market? Well, it's defined, if you look at once again, if we go to these graphs, the exchange rate is always defined by comparing one currency relative to the other one. So whatever, let me blow this up a little bit if I can. Let me make this a little bit larger. Even bigger than that, really. So whatever, so this graph right here will really help you with this, because you've got Japanese, is it Japanese yen or China? I don't get that mixed up. Why am I not remembering what Japanese? I don't know why I just hit a blank here. Anyway, this is yen. I'm going to have to look that up so I could drive myself crazy. Anyway, whatever the quantity here is, whatever the variable here is going to be in the denominator up here, and then the other currency is going to be in the numerator. But the key is the exchange rate, what we call the exchange rate on any one of these graphs, is simply a comparison of one currency with another. And that's how we value it, right? Because you have to have some kind of baseline value. You just can't say, well, it's whatever. It just be a nominal value. So we look at yen in terms of this value, and we look at it relative to the dollar. And most of the currencies in the world are done that way, are compared to the U.S. dollar or the euro, either the dollar or the euro. Okay, so understand how the nation's unemployment rate is determined. I'm pretty sure that on the formula graph right here, it tells you right there, okay? Right there. Easy enough, okay? I identify a monetary policy that would reduce unemployment. Well, in order to reduce unemployment, we want to raise output. So we want to shift the aggregate demand to the right. So that would be something that's going to be expansionary. And you should know that expansionary policy would be something that would put money into the money supply, and in order to put money into the money supply, the Federal Reserve would buy bonds. They would buy them, and the banks would have more reserves and be able to loan out more money. Calculate the change in GDP when giving marginal or a propensity to consume, change in government spending, and net and change in net exports. Okay, so that's going to be, when you look at this, net exports and are part of GDP. Okay, so you're going to want to make sure you understand that, right? And government spending are part of GDP. So when you're looking at the change here, you want to count whatever dollar amount is in government spending, and the change in net exports is the change in GDP. But we also want to look at the marginal propensity to consume, and the formula we want to use for that, I believe, is right over here, is going to be, hope it's in here. Should be. If not, I will get it for you. It might be over here. Yeah. Let me scroll down here. Make it a little bit smaller so we can see what we're looking at. Yeah, right here. Okay. So you'd simply, so if you're given either MPC, marginal propensity to consume, or marginal propensity to save, and you're given the change in spending, right? The change in spending is going to be net exports and government spending, right? And then you simply plug that in and find the change here. So if net exports went down and government spend, let me just work this out here really quickly. Let me see if I might have. I'm not sure if I did or not. No. Okay. So let's see. If we have a marginal propensity to consume, and this is probably going to be the last one I do today, 0.75, right? And we have a decline in net exports by negative 10 billion. So I would just say negative 10, right? And we have a government spending increase of positive 20. Positive 20. So this is right here. This is net exports going down and government spending going up, right? So we want to see what is going to be the change in GDP. Okay, so and I said this was marginal. This is marginal propensity. So this is MPC. Okay, MPC. All right. So we have all that. Let's look at our formula. So our formula says 1 over 1 minus MPC equals change in GDP divided by change in spending. So 1 over 1 minus MPC, okay, is going to be 1 over 0.25, right? And that is, real quick, let's see, 1 divided by 0.25, that's 4, okay, so that's 4. Woo, not supposed to happen. Go back. Okay, let me get back where I was. Here we go. Okay, equals 4. Okay. All right, now, so let's go back to a formula. So we're going to say 4 equals whatever this is over this, right? Okay, so 4, which is the change in, which is the 1 over 1 over 1 minus NBC equals this, what we're trying to find, change in GDP divided by change in spending, okay? So that's going to be 4 equals X, we just call it X, or just change it, X, divided by the change in spending, which is a net 10, right? Because we're spending, this is capital outflow, okay? So this is going to factor in, we're going to add these, right? And so it's going to just be 10, right? So simply 4 is what over 10? 40, right? So that's how you would do that. The key here is to understand that if we're looking at the formula right here, where it says change in spending, it's a little bit confusing. We want to include net exports as spending, right? This is all spending, okay? This is all spending. We can either count it as outcome, as output or input, because in GDP, whatever our income is has to equal our expenditures, right? You can do it either way, right? So this is all spending. So if net exports goes down by 10 and government spending goes up by 10, you got a net spending change of positive 10, right? So positive 10. So change in GDP, which I'm calling X right here, which is the formula right here, over the change in spending equals, in this case, 4, because 1 over 1 minus 0.75 is 4, okay? So that's how you would figure that out. If you know the formulas and you understand that in the context of this formula right here, spending is any component, right? Anything that could be in this, where was I? In the, where was I just now? Just somewhere. Where I showed you that. Oh, yeah. No, that's funny. I just was showing you the parts of it, and I don't even know which file I had up. Let's see. Not that one. Oh, here. So right there. See, any one of these is going to be spending, okay? Now, so that's all I'm going to do for tonight. So that got us through, because we've already gone for like 45 minutes. So that got us through number, where are we? Right here, okay. Number 34. And I'm going to do 2 more sessions, probably one Tuesday. We won't do a Monday because it's a holiday. Let me highlight that so I know where I stop. So we'll do 2 more sessions, one Tuesday and one Thursday, and I'll probably go through here, and I won't do all of these. I don't think you need all of these. I just do the ones that I think are, yeah, go ahead.
No, I just said that's fine.
Yeah. And certainly if anybody's watching the video, and you, Laura, who are here, thank you. If you have any of these that you particularly want me to go over, say so, right? And I'll go over them, right? Because a lot of these are review, and you don't really need me to go over it, I don't think, because I really think the key, and I know the key is going to be making sure you know these formulas and understand these, like understand, the things like I just got through explaining on this formula right here, that's, what spending is, all this. And the other thing is, these are just handouts that I found online, and I just saw this, and I'll have to send out an email, because the capital account and the financial account are synonymous. The book uses these interchangeably. So this is a mistake. This should be current account, which is the trade balance, net exports plus the difference between capital inflow and outflow always equals 0. So if what that tells me is that nobody in the class has really looked at this really hard, because if anybody has looked at this really hard, they would be emailing me and say, Mr. Charlton, are you sure that's right? Because that doesn't look right, So study these handouts. And what I might do too, or one more thing, is I might do one or two more actual questions, not the ones you're going to have on the exam, but just other past questions. And maybe, I'm thinking about that because really the way to study, and I really can't show you these questions because that would, I just can't. The way to study is to look at the past quiz questions, quiz 4 through 10. And I've got to get that graded too, don't I? Oh my goodness. 4 through 10, and look at the wrong answers and see if you can figure out why the wrong answer is wrong. And if you know that, then you really understand it,
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you have any questions before we call it a night?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. And Laura, thank you so much for coming in and being patient through that long thing. I will certainly make a note of your attendance. Just so you know, I don't know, I can't guarantee it's going to happen again, but last year, these sessions, I got about the same amount of attendance because everybody's busy, right? And I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. The students, the few that came into these, got 5s on the exam and scored like a 96. And I think it's probably not so much that you're hearing me. That's part of it. But I think it's mainly because you're here because you're committed, because you really want to do well, which means you're probably studying more than the average student, so I have very high hopes that you're going to do well. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Sure. And hopefully I'll see you again next Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Have a happy Easter. Okay.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Bye-bye.